Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Screen Chronicles. My name is Steve, and with me, as always, is Sword of the Screen Chronicles, Colby. And today we are talking about Seven Kings Must Die, the new movie that just dropped. We're recording on Saturday. Yesterday, Friday, the 14th of April, 2023. It's Seven Kings Must Die is a movie that takes place after the first 5 seasons of the show called The Last Kingdom. And we're going to do a little spoiler-free review, and then we're going to get into some spoiler talks on the details. And I'm even going to talk about some of the book stuff now. I mean, we've wrapped up everything that the book and the show has covered, so I'm going to talk some things from the books. So that'll be all spoiler alert. Colby has already seen it twice. He had a unique experience we'll talk about here. We'll talk about some of that a little more in the spoiler talk too. And if you haven't already watched our reaction to it, or if that hasn't come out yet, that will come out. So stay tuned for it, or check it out now if it's already out. So, but anyway, though, Colby, we just watched Seven Kings Must Die. You saw it at a premiere with the cast 2 weeks ago, a week ago.
The 4th, 10 days before the release. Yeah.
Okay. And then I just watched it right now. We just finished it, 20 minutes ago?
Yeah.
My first time
fresh take, people.
So this is probably the freshest review I've ever done. That might influence some of my thoughts and feelings. But Colby, you've seen it twice now. How do you feel?
As an overall movie, I feel like it was a really, really good movie. It made me feel some things. I'm not going to lie. It made me, I can't say I'm 100% satisfied with the way it ended, but at the same time, I think it was a great ending. It's weird to say it like that. It gave me goosebumps. It gave me chills. We'll explain why later. I don't know if that's the way I wanted it to end. I think I was a little bit more satisfied with the way season 5 ended, but that doesn't take away from how good the ending in the movie was. It just maybe not what I personally wanted from the characters' stories specifically.
Yeah.
Which is okay. I still like the way they did it.
Yeah.
And I actually liked it better the second watch because I kind of missed a lot the first watch. When watching in that theater experience, it was cool to kind of hear people's reactions, whether it was the actors or the other fans. This time I could really soak in every line. And I definitely missed some stuff in the theater that I picked up this go around. So I liked it better this go around. But Steve, as your first watch, what did you think?
Yeah, I mean, we just watched and we had to take a break in between that and this one just so we could recharge.
We weren't planning to, but it was heavy.
But it's a heavy movie. I feel like I just processed some trauma just thinking about the movie, talking about it again before we got onto the podcast here.
Yeah.
Without no spoilers here, but it's a heavy movie. I'd say it was almost 2 hours long, but it felt like it was on the gas most of the time.
Yeah, fast-paced movie.
Pretty typical for the Last Kingdom episode. So I mean, I'd say there's like beats of the second to last book in the series that this is based on, but it's mostly based off of the last book, Warlord, in the Saxon Tales by Bernard Cornwell. So I had already read the book in preparation, talking to him 2 or 3 years ago now. There were some things they changed, and then I mean, like when there was other things that were happening that I thought was going to change, and like it was emotional, and I was about to get mad, and I was mad, and it was just heavy, and we won't ruin it here, but yeah, the thing is, I don't think, for me, I was a little worried that it might ruin the ending of season 5 of The Last Kingdom, which I thought was just the perfect freaking
It was perfect.
ending. Perfect. That's how you do an ending. Right now, that's really what's most of my mind is dwelling on, is how this movie sort of wrapped up. It doesn't feel like it ruined it, but I'll say it's ambiguous. And I think the reason they did that, they changed how this ending was, is because they didn't want to just end it the exact same way they ended season 5. I think they were like, all right. Well, we already did that. We shouldn't just do that again, because then, like, what are we bringing new? Yeah. But at the same time, I liked what they did so much that I didn't
Yes.
want them to touch it at all, you know?
No, I know.
So yeah, but as a movie by itself, like it was good. If I didn't know anything about the Last Kingdom and I put this on and watched it, I'd be like, that was a pretty cool movie. Like I'm gonna look
I thought it
more
was,
into
yeah.
like Dane culture and like who the heck is Ethelstan in England?
There's some nice bro banter and
Some
bro moments
good bro moments, good
throughout the
bro banter,
movie, and it really played with your
acting,
emotions a lot. Some good twists,
good twist.
well written, well scripted, and the acting
Shell.
again was phenomenal. The acting again, I don't know how they find some of these actors who you really haven't seen in many other things, and then they're just amazing. They've done it since season one,
Yeah.
and that's pretty cool.
Well, you know what? I think some people have just throughout the show have grown even more into their characters and probably
Oh
learned
yeah,
stuff because like I mean damn so many people were so good in this
I know. We
like
got to get to this.
I think of James Northcote Outhelm in this like I don't think he had a lot to do but what he did I felt like I felt like everything he did
Totally, dude.
especially the sort of arc his character went on
I know since season two when he was introduced, and
yeah, Harry Gilby as Ethelstan
oh my God,
fucking slayed it.
dude, his character got so much more complex in this movie.
I think they gave him complex stuff to do. I think if he didn't bring the dynamic to it, I
Yes,
don't think you would have got that complexity. I think you would have just been like,
right.
here's another Saxon king being a dick. And that's not a spoiler. If you watch the trailer, you see him and
Right.
Uhtred at odds. So,
Right.
um,
But
and there is that, but there's more to it than that because of their relationship, and you can see it, and what's played on, and again, the writing is good for what's between him and Uhtred, but I think Harry Gilby, what he did with it,
oh
is
yeah,
what made it work so well.
totally. Totally. There's a couple scenes that really stood out to us. We'll touch on and specify those in the spoiler part of this episode. But we just kind of looked at each other when we were watching it together, like that was a great scene. And it was a couple, just Alex and Harry, Uhtred and Ethelstan
Yeah.
going at each other. Not even necessarily action scenes, just the way they're emotionally talking to each other. Because they have those two characters have such a love for each other that's really deep, but obviously other influences have come in to complicate the situation.
Yeah, they're even referred to as father and son by another character at one point, like, oh, the
Yes,
father or the son
yes,
surpasses the father. So like that's how even their characters are sort of looked at
yeah,
in this.
and
But it
and
was,
Alexander Draymond too.
I mean, he always brings it,
he
right?
always does it.
Mark Raleigh brought it.
Yes,
he had some emotional moments that I think he did, like just the way he said something made me hurt.
mm-hmm. I think Arnis
Artist
as
had
Citric was
much
more
more to
present
do
than
in
he's
this.
been in like a couple seasons,
Yeah, he didn't get as much lines
which is
in
great
season 5, so
because
I was glad he was present in this.
and I'll tell you who my surprise of the movie was that really stood out to me was Elaine Cassidy, who plays Yadgafu,
Oh yeah.
was a standout character that I did not expect to be a standout character in this movie, and she did a wonderful job. We'll talk about why in a sec.
It was written by the same woman who's written the last 2 seasons, so season 4 and season 5
Yep.
of The Last King, Martha Hiller.
Martha Hillier, yeah,
Martha Hillier, sorry.
Yep.
And directed by Ed Bazalgette.
I've heard Basil Getty. I've heard Basil Get. I've heard
Yeah,
Basil
that's what I've
Jet.
heard. Basil Get, but I was
From
just reading
people
right
like
there.
in the show. So I'm like,
So he's a
um,
mystery name,
but he's done so many of the great Last Kingdom episodes, and
yes.
I think he did a really good job pulling in what he needed to for this movie.
It was cinematic.
Could have been, I said to you after this, it probably could have been stretched out over like 3 or 4 episodes, and we maybe could have gotten a little bit more character development with some of the side characters that were introduced in this movie. Something that you got from the show that maybe you didn't get from this movie. But you can't do that when you're only allotted just shy of 2 hours, and we understand that. But
I wouldn't have minded if the movie was a little longer too. There's
2, yes, true.
There's some movies that I think, oh man, I wish this would have wrapped up a little sooner. This one, when I was it just felt like the pedal was to the metal most of the movie.
Yeah.
I think, and I'm willing to bet they probably filmed more than what they
Yeah.
showed.
Oh,
I'm
totally.
willing, and I think they could have put more in. I could have went to 2.5 hours, um, and made it
10 hours,
10 hours, a nice
20
ten,
hours.
a
We'll
nice
take it
10 hour
all.
movie.
No, no,
A
I
little bit
agree.
different than what a season is, right?
I
But
agree. But upon my second watch, I think it flowed better than I thought after my first watch.
yeah,
Even though it is fast paced, I don't think it's that hard to follow,
no, no.
and the stakes are still raised and
It feels like The Last Kingdom, though. It does feel like there's a lot of characters. It feels like there's a lot of like quick, like
mhm,
this is their motivation for betraying this person. This motivation. This is why this army is moving, and
right.
I feel like that happens. But I feel like as long as you're paying attention to the main characters and who's shown up, like you're fine.
Right.
Um, and that's how The Last Kingdom has always been. Even though they bring up all these Ead Gafu, Ethel Helm, and Ethel Bedenza and Kjartan and all these names.
Yeah.
You're like, who is who? And like you always, as long as you see there's some angry Danes and some Saxons and Uhtred gonna fight, then you know what's gonna happen. And I'd say the script is smart, but you still know who the main players are here.
Yes. Yeah.
And I would say that, again, we're talking about the good things: acting, cinematography. I thought directing, again, I think it could have been longer, but the
Yeah.
editing was good. And again, the ending was enjoyable. And I like that
It
they
was
didn't ruin season
right.
5, but
Let's put it this way. It's not what I wanted to happen
not what I wanted.
necessarily.
Yeah.
But it was really freaking well done the
It was
way they
good.
did it. And it gave me
Yeah.
goosebumps
Yeah.
and it was I think it was masterfully done, even though it's not exactly what I wanted personally, selfishly,
Mm.
to happen. And I think that's fair. I think that's fair. And I wonder what you guys think too about the ending. Please tell us if you liked it. Maybe you really, really liked the way it ended. Would love to hear people's thoughts about the whole movie, and we hope that you comment below.
Yeah. Let us know what you think.
Yeah.
Also, too, shield wall. There's a shield wall.
Yes.
A shield wall battle. I'd say this is probably the most realistic one that we've seen. Not that the show is mostly realistic, right? But
yeah.
there's a lot of times there's just open field battles clashing, and in reality, at least historically, I'm no expert, but at least from what I've learned from my readings and the little bit of knowledge I do have, if you were like doing that, you have no lines, so you have no organization, and it's just gonna fall into chaos, and you're not gonna. It'll be much harder to win.
Right.
So anyway, though, that they do get away from the shield wall at some point during the battle, but they did that, and it was also just really like gritty. They're showing the build up to it. It feels, and you said it, and I was thinking the same thing. It feels like Bernard Cornwell battle, like from the books.
Right. It really did.
Some of the details that he brings into just the pre-battle stuff, I felt like was present in that, which I really liked. Because if you read his books, and if you haven't read his books, you should.
I was on the edge of my seat for the battle. I think
I was on the edge of my seat too. Yeah, it was intense. I will say there are some things that happen in the battle in the book that I wish
there always is
too. And I'm gonna tell you today, guys, in the spoiler talk, but I wish it would have made it because it was so good. If you watched our Bernard Cornwell talk, you've probably heard it. But anyway, it was still good. But it does feel like it was missing like a little extra like oomph. Like I needed like another character to clash with another character, or like
I would agree with that.
A little bit extra.
I would agree.
Like animosity between two people.
Yeah.
They did. There were two characters that had animosity and fought, but I'd say the resolution in the battle, even though the resolution happens later, and it's good and it's well done, and I thought I liked the exchange that went down. I kind of wish there was something a little bit more. I don't know, like Uhtred kills when he fights Canute, or
totally
Ubba, or or something like that happened
I
in
know.
it, or
Dude, we should just get into spoiler talk because
let's get into
we're
it
getting deep. But let's give our rating of the movie. This is our immediate rating.
immediately right
I've had
now.
a little bit more time to think about it than Steve. My rating, I think, went up after the second watch. Steve's is immediate rating.
And I'm
We've changed
traumatized.
our ratings in the past because like we take everything into consideration. We're not so like stubborn that we
Yeah,
can't change our opinions about things. But like this is how we feel about the movie right now
this
at
is what
this
it
moment.
is. This is our
And
truth right now, people.
tell us if you agree or if you disagree. Okay,
Yes,
Steve.
I'm giving it an 8.
Shield! Wall!
Okay,
I think it's a good score. Like I said,
good score.
even if I didn't know The Last Kingdom, if I watched this, I'm like, that was a solid movie that I just watched on Netflix. But there are things that I wish they would have done or added or
Yeah,
done differently.
yeah,
That could have propelled it to a 10 or even 11 out of 10. like
totally.
the last episode of the final season of The Last Kingdom was to me.
Totally. I'm gonna after watching the second time, I'm gonna give it an 8.5.
And I call my lands England.
Long live the king. Long live the king.
Long live the King of England.
I actually liked it better the second watch. Like I said, there's less distractions, and actually touched things that I had missed in the original watch through. That I liked that they mentioned some characters that were in the show that were not in the movie, and they kind of explained, oh, this person's no longer around. Whatever. We'll talk about it in a second, but 8.5 I think is a fair score. It was really good. I really enjoyed watching it. Even a second time through, I was still as into it as I was the first time, like excited, like still felt nervous, even though I knew what was going to happen. So
yeah,
it
you were
was
still reacting.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
So that's our review. If you're a fan of Last Kingdom, I think you will be a fan of this. You might just have different thoughts on it or what, but go watch it, check it out if you haven't already. And if you haven't seen it before and you want to know what the hell else is going on, check out the show The Last Kingdom that this movie is based off of, and then check out our channel because we got lots of good Last Kingdom shit. But let's get into spoiler alert, everybody.
You have been warned. Spoilers from this point on.
This is your destiny to be spoiled.
I think can
we just jump to the ending right now?
Yes.
Okay. So
and
I feel like we filmed our reactions to this, and I feel like and maybe you know if you've seen it already or not, or but I feel like my reaction during the battle went from "this is amazing" to I'm like, Uhtred's getting stabbed over and over again.
I thought, dude, you loved the movie up until that point. Like that was the first time you seemed any bit disappointed in what happened.
Yeah.
When he dies. Well, we think. Pretty sure.
It's ambiguous. I'd say they went kind of artsy with this one, which isn't bad.
Maybe he was just hallucinating Valhalla, you think?
Well, yeah. So I mean, I think so. We'll get you a little more setup here to just clarify. Uhtred gets stabbed in the final battle a bunch of times.
A lot.
A ton. He grabbed Serpent Breath, his sword, like getting ready for Valhalla.
Great shot.
To die.
Great shot.
And then they cut away and they show Ethelstan in a resolution that was pretty cool. And they cut back. And it looks like they find Uhtred's body, like he's dead. And Sihtric does first, and then I almost said Mark Rowley's character Finan. That's it.
Yeah.
They come over, turn him over, and then it pans up away, and it shows a quote from some historical text about the battle, the Chronicle, the Screen Chronicles, and
the Screen Chronicles wrote that,
and I'm just like, fuck, this is the end. He's dead, and so yeah, I'm still listen. So that probably influenced my score I just gave you too. Like I'm still feeling this. Like my body after we got done watching this was like my muscles started to slowly relax, and I felt like I just worked out. Like I had like weird soreness around my neck and upper back, and like like right here in the front of my shoulder.
I know.
Anyway, though, so they pan away, and then they eventually show him in a cart. Though we always see our heroes, Geralt and Ragnar and Uhtred and everyone else getting towed away in carts, clinging to life. They show him though, then he's alive. He's moving his hand. I'm like, okay,
Dude,
thank
the theater
God.
erupted when that happened at the premiere.
Yeah. With like they were like, oh, like a sigh of relief.
And when you were like that too, you were like a sigh of relief when that happened.
Yeah.
And I was just sitting here like,
yeah. So you had me going too. You were red, and it's like, fuck, like Colby's emotional. That means he's dead. And they show later he's in Bebbanburg. He's come out then to see everyone. He ends up swearing fealty to Ethelstan. Good scene. Those two, their chemistry and what they did in this was awesome. But still going off the ending. Uhtred then starts walking back to. They're like, "Hey, go lay down in your room." And Uhtred's kind of talking like he's aware that he's gonna die. Is kind of how he's talking.
yeah.
But they're like, "You'll be fine. Like, you're not going to die." Finn's like, "I die before you." And like everyone at his group is smiling at him. But he's looking back at the room he just came from where he was resting. But now it's not the room he was resting in anymore. It's Valhalla. It's
Dude.
a bunch of Danes sitting around in the feast hall, Odin's feast hall.
And not just any Danes. Not just any Danes.
We got Heston. We got Ragnar the Elder, the man who raised Uhtred as a Dane. We have Brida, and we have Klappa, the giant, world's strongest man who was in season 2,
Yes.
who gave his life in the season finale for the group. A member of the original Bro Squad. So
Goosebumps. Goosebumps.
What a good scene.
And he looks back too as he looks toward the hall, and then he looks back at his son, and he like zooms in on his son, which to me that was just showing like he's letting go because he knows he is living on in the real world, even though he's going. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, like his legacy's going on.
His legacy is living on. Like that's what it meant to me.
To me, I looked at it as he had a choice of whether to go back to his room and lay down and die, where he'd end up in Valhalla then, or he could stay out with his friends and he could choose to live and he would be alive.
Right.
They kind of end there. They show him just standing in the middle of this like doorway between this golden lit Valhalla with all these Danes just drinking beer, hanging out, and his family and friends on the other side. And they just sort of pan out from him, and then they pan out from Bebbanburg, and then they show Bebbanburg, the fortress in modern day, which we are going to.
Yes. Yes.
They leave it pretty ambiguous in my mind as far as, and that's what I like. It's like, to me, then I can choose Uhtred stays alive and that he just sees what's awaiting him.
Yes.
Like that it's confirmed he is getting into Valhalla. This is the last thing the last kingdom is putting out, and they just want you to know, like, he's getting there. And look, these other characters that you like, they're there too. Here's some fan service for you. Or another little callback. Or
he's just hallucinating and he just died. It just kidding.
or it is.
No, but that's the thing with the Last
choosing
Kingdom is like they've never done anything so like obvious mythological in the show. They've always made it like, oh, there could be a real world explanation. And I think if you're going to follow that philosophy, then it could be him hallucinating. You know what I mean?
But even if so, I think it is technically him hallucinating.
That's what he wants to see. Like,
I don't think we necessarily saw Valhalla.
Right.
I think that was to indicate he's now choosing between living or die.
Yes.
But like what you said, he is looking. He's like, well, my son's there. Like, I've already got everything set up. Like, there's no really need for me anymore. England is formed. Bebbanburg's in my name. I was lord of it. I could just die, or like, well, I still got all these people. I love them, and I want to stay.
There's people he loves on both sides.
So I think it's his internal thoughts being visibly expressed, through his injuries and potential
Yeah.
hallucinations and things. Or you could just accept it if you're someone that like thinks that like his fortress got put out by Thor. Or that you think he got healed because in season 3 because Brita put the goat head in front of Skade. Or
Right. Exactly. Well, that's what, I think you're right. I think that they did leave it up for your interpretation to an extent, although a bit more of a stretch than they have in the past, a bit more, because it does seem a bit final. The way he was talking to everyone before he goes to the room. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I get that.
Me, just so I can be happy, am
Yes,
going to, in
yes.
my head, say he's choosing to live on, and he just knows that he can get to Valhalla later.
That's what I'm gonna. I'd like to think that too. I think it's hard to convince myself of that a little bit, but I want to think that, and that's why we said earlier it's not exactly the ending we wanted, because I think we just wanted him to live forever and be happy and have a wife and kids and like all the shit that's happened in his life be over and just like have a great retirement.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what I loved about season 5 is it is a happy ending. They show he's gone through trauma with.
Yes.
They show the flashbacks, but then he just takes a deep breath in and they just pan out over the seas and just like destiny is all. And it's just everyone was just partying in the courtyard. His whole family's there. His other son's coming. Good days ahead of us. And
right.
And he's talking to Edith, so it's like he's got a girlfriend. Things are going on. Then with this one, I'll say with the books, I won't say who or whatever, but he does have a wife. And in the books, Uhtred, and in the show, they say Uhtred's old, even though he doesn't look old at all.
No,
but
he should be way older.
He's lived through 3 generations of kings now through England, right? Alfred's son Edward, Edward's son Ethelstan is now a king. Uhtred has lived through all 3 of those. He's like 80 or 90 years old in the book, in the final book of Warlord.
So I mean, he should have been way older.
He's an old man. But anyway, though, in the books, though, I'll tell you, Uhtred is an old man in the final book telling the story of his life. He's been Lord of Bebbanburg for decades now.
Yeah.
Man, there was.
So at least he's had decades.
Yeah,
he's had like peak of like happiness.
Yeah, and in this one, it's just like it feels like he just like, and you look at him and you look at what's going on in the world. It's like it feels like it's been like maybe 5 years since he got Bebbanburg. Like
they might specify that in the beginning, though. I mean, I think there was time that went on, like Edward lived the rest of his life, however long that was, and he probably got old. And I like to think there was more time that went on.
I think Ethelstan was already king too in the final book. He wasn't king of everything yet. That still happens in the final book.
I think he was granted Mercia, like in real history.
I think he was already king of something though, by the final book. So it's just like it just feels like more had already happened. And again, he wasn't dead yet in the books. Uhtred is not dead in the books. It's told first person, and he's saying,
well, let me tell you something.
I hold onto the sword like every night just in case I die in my sleep.
Let me tell you something, dude.
What?
I knew this was going to happen from the first line of the movie.
Why?
Because has Finan ever done a voiceover? I knew it, dude. As soon as Finan did the voiceover, I said, why is Finan telling Uhtred's story right now? And I just knew something was, going to happen to him.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking that too, but I was thinking that it would still be like maybe they'd show him actually be like super old and die, and then Finan. But I don't know. But yeah. So anyway, though, I like in the books too. He's married. Again, still some bad shit happens. 2 of his kids are dead in the final book, which they're not in the movie. And
they don't really show anybody's kids. They don't show Finan's kids. They don't show Citric's relationships. They don't show any other of Uhtred's kids besides Osbert. And they do show Edward's 3rd son. Edmund. He's got like a couple lines in the movie. He's sort of he's like important to the plot, but he doesn't have like a huge presence in the movie. Other than that, like any other kids he might have had, he didn't have any relationship in this movie. It looked like he was starting to build one with Yadgifu, which was interesting.
Yeah, I wish they would have got together and they would have just still had this sort of happy ending and shown Bebbanburg be all right. Maybe show him, like, maybe they fast forward and show him dying later. Maybe like, again, they don't actually show him die, but they just show him being old and like getting there. But like they show that he's lived and he's been married, and they show that his son is like actually taking over and doing more.
Right.
And they show that Ethelstan is now being a king and not killing all of his subjects and stuff.
But I think they say that they do say that when they're zooming out on Bebbanburg, they give those lines, and the fact that Bebbanburg is still there, it's like Vikings were still invading until the Normans came, and Bebbanburg is still there. I think that was cool. And Ethelstan ruled another 15 years. So like that's a fairly successful reign,
Yeah.
But
so I guess just to elaborate on my feelings with the ending was I was immediately mad that I thought they had just killed Uhtred outright in that battle.
Right. They really make you think it too. Like they like show the zoom out that you mentioned, and then like they just like a couple other scenes not about Uhtred. Yeah. And then like you just
like, God damn. Yeah.
Big time.
So like I was mad about that, and then it's like, oh, he's alive, but then the ambiguous ending with his life, which again makes it seem like they're kind of hinting at he is gonna die, but I think they wanted to leave it open, so I wouldn't get too mad. So
let's leave it open
too much.
People. Let's just leave it open so Steve can be happy and we can all be. Yeah. Just pretend. Please.
So I wish, I wish they kind of, maybe it would have been cheesy and maybe it would have been repetitive. I kind of wish they would have just shown a happy ending with him and just wrapped it up there. But they left it ambiguous,
like they did in season 5.
Yeah, exactly. But again, though, I bet you they had a talk about the ending. And I bet you they said, let's not do the exact same thing we just did for season 5, though.
Yeah, you can't really do that, and I get that. I get that.
And
that'd be a cop out.
They're filmmakers and they're artists, and they're like, we want to do something new and artsy. So
it was freaking awesome.
It was like, so cool.
Even though, like I said, even
the concept of it was really cool,
and it was really well done. Although I will say it could have been a little better.
How?
And there's some technicalities I want to discuss here real quick. And please,
so
if we're wrong about this.
Some Valhalla technicalities, right?
Valhalla, yes. I and maybe there's exceptions to the rules, but I thought that Ragnar the Elder did not hold on to the sword before he died. And I remember in that battle, he sticks it in the ground before he collapses, and he wasn't holding on to it. And that was part of the reason Uhtred, he was obviously upset that he died, but like I think there was like the extra like devastation that the sword was not there. So my guess is that, at the I don't know, the foreign office of Valhalla, like at the embassy, they're like looking through and they found a technicality that if you're on fire and you're trying to fight one against fucking 30 Vikings and you're on fire, and
he had such a metal death that it's like, all right, he dropped it like 2 seconds before he died, or maybe he died and then he dropped the sword. Yeah,
but then there's that one like Valhalla representative's like, but he didn't hold on to the sword though. Like, I'm sorry. Even though that's the most Valhalla death you'll ever see. Like, he didn't hold. No, but obviously he got in, which I'm happy about. Man, if they could have had Ragnar the Younger there, that would have been so freaking perfect. It would have validated
briefly.
It would have validated everything that happened in season 3, where like we think that he got there, and maybe he was in the bathroom or something. He could have been. He comes back. He's like, I missed him.
Oh, damn it! Did we just do the vision to Uhtred and I wasn't here? You guys said you were gonna wait.
I don't think they ever really look at him and like see him though.
No, right? It didn't look like they acknowledged him really at all. It looked like they were
celebrating and.
But yeah, if you remember, Ragnar the younger, the one who was like Uhtred's brother, got killed by Ethelwald.
Ethelwald.
Ethelwald
Took his sword away.
Ethelwald took the sword away, so he and then we were like, oh wait, that's why he wasn't there. But then we were like, oh wait, the whole quest, and he killed Ethelwald with Torra's blood was to get him to Valhalla.
And the sun rays came down.
So I think he should have been there. I wonder if it was just scheduling conflict, because I think he's
sure
a fan
they must
favorite.
have asked him. They must have asked him.
And I think there's so many times too when we just put out a post or have that character in the thumbnail or something, like more people watch that just because of they like that character or they like the way it looks. So
They must have had him. Yeah.
I feel like that was either a missed opportunity or there was probably just some scheduling thing, because that guy is definitely in Valhalla. The Ragnar one felt so
That's what hit
good
me.
to see.
That was what hit me.
And Klappa and just Klappa there.
Oh yeah, that was amazing too. So he came
awesome.
back. I would have also liked Runa Tempt. I'd love Ubba to be there, because he definitely should have been in Valhalla. Because
I feel like he would have done it too.
And the cool thing about Valhalla is that if you were enemies in real life in Valhalla, it's like it doesn't matter anymore. Everybody is just feasting. They do battle, I think, but like it doesn't matter who your enemies were. That's why like Heston's there.
Yeah,
even though he was sometimes an enemy, sometimes a friend. Brito was obviously sometimes an enemy. I think it would have been cool to just have even the bad Vikings that were like, man, what if they have like Scorpa there too? I'm not sure. Did he have his sword?
He at the very least had a spear in his belly. So another technicality, Heston was there.
Yes.
Who was not actually holding on to a sword. We have watched this back when we talked to Yeppa. He said that he was holding on to a sword. At least in what they show in the show, he's not holding on to the sword when he dies, but he does have a sword in him.
He's holding on to it with his small intestine.
He's holding on to it is what's left over of his rectus abdominis and his intestinal tract.
Yes.
So technicality
again. There's just that one like guy, like that nerdy Valhalla guy that's just like going through the rules. It's like, but look, it says right here.
Odin, come on. If we let this guy in,
we got to let everyone in.
Then what are we going to say to Canute? Like
Canute wasn't there, which like I don't think Canute should be in Valhalla.
Well, I don't think Canute was holding onto a weapon, and I don't think he had a weapon in him when he died.
Exactly. So boom, there we go.
I think that's a clear no Valhalla
right.
for him. And then Blood Hair. I love that when they were talking about Blood Hair and
they
like
nodded to all these guys like
when they're
reminiscing about the great battles they've had and the enemies they used to have. And
Blood Hair, I'm pretty sure, did not have his axe.
Well, he got killed by Heston. Oh, no, Skade actually.
Skade poisoned him. Yeah, I can't remember, but
poisoned him, and then
Runa Tempt, who played Ubba, probably one of my favorite characters, if not my favorite character from The Last Kingdom, was holding onto his axe. Uhtred made sure of that and should have been there. And I feel like Runa would have done it too.
Oh, unless he's got something. Maybe he's busy with something. I don't know.
Maybe he got something else, but I would have loved
maybe
to
they
see
asked
him.
Didn't, but that would have been great to see him. I'm trying to think of others that would have been Sigtrygr.
Yeah, Sigtrygr. Yes. Why
not?
Wow, damn. How did that? He had a definite Valhalla death. He held onto the sword the entire time. Was just in an awesome battle. Got killed by Uhtred.
He had a burial. Like they ensured that he was going to Valhalla. Like they made damn sure he was going. Again, maybe a scheduling conflict. They just couldn't do it.
Scheduling thing.
But nonetheless, still really awesome.
Good.
And
it was cool. It was really cool and unexpected.
I think having
not from the book either. And
no.
I thought it was good and fit and cool. So I appreciate the artisticness of it. I appreciate they did do something new compared to how they ended the regular season. It was cool and unexpected. Cool fan service. Cool to the Dane culture, which we love seeing the Dane culture in the show, and how it's been done so far. And I thought it fit and it was cool. And it still fits in the guidelines of the realism versus supernatural side of the show.
Totally.
But I just love that happy ending so goddamn much for season 5 that it's kind of like I wish they didn't touch it. I wish they didn't touch it at all. Like you said, I did like most of the movie, and it was really just that I had that feeling of they're going against the book here now. Where they've and again they've done that in the past, but to me, the ending of the book, like you can't go against that. Like you cannot just definitively say, like you couldn't just definitively go Uhtred is dead, because that does not happen in the books, and I'm glad they didn't do that. But I was mad that I thought they were going to do that.
Totally. Yeah. Well,
Like I said,
I really like though how they zoomed out in the real castle instead of the wooden Bebbanburg, because to me that tied in like us to the show. That's today. Like that's what it looks like now. I felt, for me at least, I felt more connected to the movie and shows after seeing that. Like it's all come to now where the castle still stands.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Even though it wasn't the castle then,
still stands, man.
But yeah,
Bebbanburg
Castle
stands.
there. So that was cool. That was a great idea. It was a great idea.
It was awesome. Let's talk about the rest of the movie, though. The general plot of it is that they get a prophecy: 7 kings must die, and they show these 7 kings, and Ethelstan ends up eventually becoming one of those kings. A guy named Engelmunder is basically seducing and manipulating Ethelstan.
So I was really confused at the beginning as to, I was like, wow, how is Ethelstan? And I hadn't read the book, so I didn't know this. And I didn't know this from history, because apparently this is a bit of history, speculative, that I was like, how is Ethelstan being so easily manipulated to sort of be not treating Father Purelig well, to sort of like be second guessing Uhtred a little bit? Like why is he listening to this guy so much? And then it all makes sense when there is the scene where he is actually sort of in
he's dick whipped.
He's dick whipped.
He's dick whipped.
He is actually
he's
in love with this guy. I didn't know that about Ethelstan, and in history apparently it's speculated that he was, because apparently he was well groomed. He was it was commented how good care of himself he took, and I don't think he never had his own heir, right?
Yeah. So I would say in recent years, there has been a lot of stuff in movies to try and invoke social change. And sometimes I think it's good for the art, and sometimes I think it's forced. And I think a lot of people who like the show and don't know the books might be thinking that this is something that is being influenced by the outside world to be pushed into this movie as an agenda. And I'll let you know that the book, written by Bernard Cornwell, who does copious amounts of research, so much research, and that he got to write in the book that researches the final battle that happens in this movie, which is a real battle, which is where how they when they consider England officially happens, that the country of England finally is united and formed. Bernard Cornwell, the author of the books that the show and the movie is based off of, did so much research that he uncovered information about the battle that the historians used his knowledge in their book, and had him write a foreword to the book. He, in his book, describes Ethelstan as well-groomed, really gaudy. I think they should have done more of that in this. I think they should have shown Ethelstan kind of looked like a tough, normal dude.
He's tough, but he's got a pretty face. Like he's got
but they describe his hair is always well groomed, and I think they said he has feathers in his crown. And
well, they didn't do the costuming didn't look so flamboyant or anything.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he was over the top
flamboyant. No, but
Elton John. But I think back then, for them,
but for that time,
he looked like Elton John to someone covered in pig shit.
Yeah, I wouldn't say he looked like that in this, but I do think he took care of himself. I thought his hair would always look good. I thought he's got he ain't got shit all over him.
He ain't got shit all over like the rest of us.
So
anyway, though,
cool.
That is not only is that from the book that this movie's based off of, but it's also it seems very likely from history because there was a
Mhm.
lot of rumors that he was fucking his advisor, and he
And it
never had
made-
any heirs. And they explain that in
So-
this movie that Uhtred made him swear a vow, but
Yeah.
they think in reality he just didn't have heirs because he was putting his sword in not the sheath that makes babies, so
So what's cool too is that they sort of talk about how the throne is going to be passed to Edmund. That's cool because Edmund is also getting the Uhtred influence from Osbert,
Mhm.
who's kind of training him. And they kind of earlier in the movie, Adgifu kind of comments about how like, not in these words, but how Edmund's now coming out of his shell. Like, wow, he's never looked this happy. Like, and so that like he's going to become more kingly probably through the training of like Osbert and the influence of Bebbanburg, basically, which is cool to me. But what I was gonna say about Ethelstan, and I was really confused, is like, why is he acting like this at the beginning? We all know that love makes people do irrational things, and it just made so much sense when that scene revealed their relationship, like how difficult it was for Ethelstan to go against him because he's in love. And that's a very strong emotion. That is one of the strongest emotions there can be. That would alter your decision making, even if logically sometimes Uhtred's right. And I think Harry Gilby masterfully gave us those hints of like he has that deep love for Uhtred as like a father figure.
Mm.
And even though he's going against Uhtred in a lot of scenarios in this movie, you see the pain that it has for him to sort of banish him. Or like there's the one scene, dude, that he held the sword up to his throat. And in the theater, I was not totally sure what he was going to do. I was thinking to myself, Finnan did the intro thing.
Yeah, I was thinking they might kill him and they might switch to other people taking over the rest of this movie then.
Like maybe like it would be the craziest thing to happen in a movie like ever.
Yeah.
But like maybe, and I'm glad they didn't. But I think it just I can't speak enough to how well Harry played that, because you really felt both sides of his emotions. You could kind of feel why he would do that because of the love he feels for this guy, but also, you can see that it pains him. So I thought it was well done, and it was a huge bit of context to the movie that really made the movie interesting.
Every scene he was in, I thought he was really good.
I think we got to give props to that one scene where Uhtred comes back and Ethelstan is like about to. He actually takes his banishment away.
Mm-hmm.
And he asks for Uhtred's oath, and Uhtred's like, well, I will swear to you that your boyfriend is a traitor. And the denial of Ethelstan is so strong. Mm-hmm. And Uhtred's just like, why would I lie to you?
Yeah.
Why would I
really liked how
like I think of you
Uhtred
as
was in that scene.
Alexander Draymond killed
him. You could tell like he knows why Ethelstan isn't believing him, but he's also like just tired and just wants him to accept what he's saying, and he's just being as rational as he's like, here, like I saw the guy, sneak behind me. He thought I didn't see him, but I definitely did. And like everyone there knew about you and him.
Why is Ethelstan so stupid that he thinks he can be in a room alone with Uhtred? And like Uhtred just like quickly like got him just quickly
like ducks under him and puts him in a chokehold.
Man, great scene. It was a great scene.
I'll say also too, the scene at the end, I liked it, but at the time I was like, get this fucking scene out of my way. I want to know what Uhtred is doing, if he's alive or not. But the scene itself, I still appreciate it. Like, was pretty good between him and Ingolmander after the battle. Ethelstan gets Ingolmander away, and they talk about, and it turns out Ingolmander was who was manipulating Ethelstan with religion, Christianity,
and love,
and love,
lust and love,
and dick. Was we find out he's still Dane. He's still trying to go to Valhalla, and he's like, well, my gods are better than your gods. And he's like, and then Ethelstan's like, well, why is it you're about the one who's about to die? And just like the way he said it, I mean, the line was awesome, but the way he said it and how like
the delivery was perfect.
The
delivery was perfect.
It was good.
Yeah, man.
Oh,
I mean,
man, I like that.
They hit the jackpot with Harry Gilby in this role.
He
season 5 and the movie.
I think they just lucked out getting someone who was able to bring those complexities.
I mean, he's been good in other movies before, so I think they knew they were getting a really good actor in him. But man, like to play a role like that, and I'm guessing when they casted him for season 5, they weren't sure they were going to do a movie. Just props to the casting team again, really awesome. So Engelmander, to me, Laurie Davidson, who played him, was the most interesting new character in the movie. There's always like a new bad guy that's interesting, and I thought he was not one of those ones where like Ubba, where you actually kind of liked the bad guy, even though he was the bad guy. You definitely did not like him. I thought he was a piece of weasel shit the whole time.
Oh yeah,
but he played the role very well, and you could see how he was so manipulative of people. He manipulated Athelstan the whole movie. He manipulated the freaking
maid.
Oh man, if it wasn't for her, this movie would have been over in an hour.
Whatever the opposite of an MVP is, that's what the maid is.
The maid was,
whatever the opposite of that is, the weak link in the chain or whatever, like goes down and just gets dick whipped by him too. Like, what's he just going around dick whipping everybody, you know? And
but I gotta say, the boys, it's like there's 3 of you. All 3 of you are gonna go into the cave at the same time. Like,
I mean, they have been invincible so far, right? Like, they're just like, we can go anywhere.
And they kind of thought it was like all of their people.
Yeah.
Like, it was just their land, their people. And
yeah.
But let's talk about Engelmander a little bit, because I think he deserves a lot of props for this role.
So he is sort of the catalyst for stirring the pot in this. He is working for the new Dane Anlaf that comes to shore for this, which we don't know that yet, but we do. Uhtred's like, so that's a Dane name, right?
And I like how when he says what he is, it's like the opposite of Uhtred. He's like, I was born a Dane,
raised by Saxons
under Alfred the Great or something, and
anti-Uhtred,
but not really, because he actually serves the Danes.
Yeah,
find out. So
but he was raised by Saxons, so he knows they like all the piety and stuff, and he is some sort of very orthodox Christianity, very strict religious sect. I forget what they called it in this. It felt a little more culty than even what we'd seen in the show so far, where it's very strict and pious. I felt like there was like other weird cult things to it. I'm not saying Christianity. I'm just saying whatever they were doing just felt like its own weird sect. And he's manipulating him with religion, while meanwhile working for Anlaf the Dane, who is trying to get basically Uhtred, who has Bamber, which I feel like they could have done a better job explaining that too, which they explained very well in the books. Bamber is like the gateway between the rest of England and Scotland. If they can take that, they can take Scotland, because then they have this impenetrable
in season
fortress.
5 they emphasize that.
Yeah,
in season 5, yeah.
And so that's why, like, and in the books, like, all the kings are trying to like get Uhtred on their side, and then Ethelstan's trying to get him on his side, but Ethelstan's doing dumb things that turns him off. But then he knows he can't go with the other people. So it was definitely a lot more of a political book for most of it. That's what's going on, though. Anlaf is stirring the pot. He's getting the other Dane leaders, and he's getting Constantine of Scotland to team up from Ethelstan behaving recklessly, doing these dumb things that Engelmond is telling him to do. That's going to alienate Uhtred and unite all these other kingdoms against him.
Anlaf's a smart dude.
Smart guy.
He's like you said during the movie, he's the Darth Sidious for Star Wars fans. He's got agents on both sides, just like turning them against each other. He even talks about it openly, like in the scene that reveals Engelmander. He's like, yeah, they'll just fight each other. It'll be great. And Yeah, that's basically what he did.
I would say
and he's
though,
smart. Like like any bad guy who recognizes the potential of Uhtred and like knows he needs to like just take Uhtred out is very smart.
I thought the guy who played Onlof, that Dane Pekka Strang,
Yeah,
I thought he did a good job.
I thought
But
so too.
I
thought
just
so too.
I just he wasn't unique, cool Dane enough for me to be like, man, I love that Dane. He's up there with like Knut and Ragnar and Ubba, or Citriger.
No, but he was good. I thought he was
Heston.
good.
I thought he was good though. But yeah, he was. If you saw this movie and you want to feel more of that Dane Viking stuff, watch the show, man. You gotta watch it. I wish we would have seen more Constantine.
Yeah,
Just
that was a disappointment for me in the movie.
off the chain. We saw some cool pictures of Rod Hollett as Constantine in the mud, covered in blood in the battle. But
didn't have a ton of lines, didn't have a ton of battle beats.
Yeah, I don't remember him being like any standout moves from him or anything, which was disappointing because in season 5 he was one of our favorite new characters. He had our best battle moment. I was hoping to see another.
I just wanted more of him because he was like one of our new favorite characters in season 5, and like he was good in the scenes he was in. He was still Constantine. He was disheveled, and I think that maybe that's from like the shame of losing the battle, or something like that. But like he was still king in Scotland, and Rod Hallett kills it again. I just wish he was in it more, and I wish he had more scenes and more battle beats.
That's what I mean. I think another 30 minutes to this movie. I bet you they had maybe some more scenes with him talking with Uhtred, and I guarantee you they have tons more of that battle that they didn't put in just to keep it streamlined.
Yeah.
I guarantee you they had tons of battle stuff they cut out.
I know.
And they always do, but you could have left it in, guys.
Yeah. But he looked good. He looked good as king still. Like I said, he looked disheveled. He looked a little bit like he was like the guy in season 5.
Yeah.
He was like so self-confident.
The dude.
In this one, his posture was a little bit more slumped. I mean, they were in a tough position because like Scotland had to kind of choose like, well, the Saxons, who have like the same religion as us, are burning our villages. I don't want to join the Danes, but like, what choice do I have right now?
Yeah, and he wanted to be his own country too. He didn't want to be part of England. He wanted to be king.
Right.
He didn't want to be subject to anyone else.
Yeah, and so that's why like the whole movie they kept asking like, are we ready to like do a new treaty now with Ethelstan like that?
So anyway, yeah, there's this chaos going on. I would say, man, one of the biggest twists too early on before Ethelstan is king is when he's going to, was that Mercia or was that Winchester first? When he kills Elfward.
That was Mercia. They went to Mercia. Yeah, because he had basically taken over Aelisburg. They say Aelisburg was neglected by Edward for years, so it kind of looked crappy. So did Effowich later, by the way. It just looked disheveled.
They keep trying to shit on my boy Edward, you know?
And they mentioned, I remember when we were at the event and we weren't sure if Mickey Stolt was in the movie or not. We found out that he probably wasn't in the movie when we were at the event. They just kind of mentioned Rungvolder had died, which would leave Effowich open, and it looked disheveled. But anyway, that crazy scene where we see Ethelstan do the first sort of rash thing was at Aelisburg with Aelfward, played by Ewan Horrocks.
Damn, that caught me off guard. I thought he's gonna accept him as a brother, give him a bro hug, and this is how he gets crowned, and then the drama is gonna start after that. But he just walks. His brother's like holding out like for a bro hug and just stabs him, and just goes about pillaging the town. And like Uhtred and everyone's like, what the hell? And
it's so crazy. And like, you remember like that scene at the end of season 5 when it's Ethelhelm, Aelfward, and Ethelstan in that room.
Yeah. And
sort of brother to brother, Ethelstan's trying to reveal to Aelfward, like, this is who your grandfather really is.
Yeah.
And you know, it seems like they've probably had a good enough relationship with each other that he didn't think he was gonna kill him.
Yeah.
Like, damn, I didn't expect that. I kind of like when the way he charged up, I was like, oh, here we go. I was like, oh no.
I thought he was gonna just like give a hug and then just like immediately proceed to be like in charge of everything. That's what I thought was
or like make him do something like petty, like get down on your knees and swear to me.
Yeah.
Something like that, but not like it was a pretty shocking moment. But also when you see Aelford throws his swords down, his sword and his dagger, you see Ethelstan only throws his sword down, and you can see his dagger still in his belt.
Mm.
I'm like, if I'm Aelford, I'm checking him on that.
Hey,
I'm like, but as he comes up, hey, stop.
I
That was
wasn't expecting
nuts,
that from his
dude.
brother. And
From
then
Ethelstan.
Serpent Breath gets stolen.
Oh, dude.
Uhtred gets jumped.
Was that the worst part of the movie or what?
That was one of the worst parts. I was a little bit like, now if they get rid of Serpent Breath here, like
Okay.
I'm gonna throw another fit.
Okay, so there's a few things to talk about for this. First of all, when the sword gets taken from him, I was saying to you when we watched, I was like, dude, this is the worst part of the movie. This is the worst. It's worse than anybody dying. It's like,
no!
I know. And it's just stolen by like a couple of punks that were like trying to mess with him earlier, and he
I know,
like showed him
that
who's boss.
he
So it
easily
was
just
so
like wrist locks one,
that was cool. He's like, shh. He's like, shh, shh, shh. That was badass.
Mhm.
But they freaking take it. They ambushed him. And you just feel like this emptiness, like somewhere in you, like until he
Yeah.
gets it back later.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like, how is he himself without this sword?
That's a character from season 1.
Exactly.
Dude.
And dude, I thought that when he gets it back, I wanted it to be different than what it was. It was actually really well done, the way he said, and by exchanging it, I mean, I'm going to take it and you're going to take this one. That was pretty awesome.
Yes.
But I also kind of wish it maybe have been too cheesy, but the guy's like, I bought it for 5 coin in this plate, and I wanted Uhtred to be like, it's worth 10 and give him or
like when it was first made. We love that scene when he was with the blacksmith. He's like, it's worth 15, you know.
Or yeah, something like that. Yeah, whatever the number was from season 1.
Yeah, he goes 5 higher or whatever.
And like the guy gets like more money than he paid for it or something, you know, but then the other thing I kind of wish is that like he found the guy who took his sword and murdered him.
Yeah.
With the sword.
I was kind of hoping he would find that guy during the battle and get his sword. Let me tell you something that happens in the book that's amazing with the sword. Uhtred throws serpent breath to Ethelstan to kill. I forget if it's Onlaf or Ingelmander, but it's the battle sort of. Ethelstan becomes sort of the hero of the battle. Like he's the one, like doing great in the shield wall, and like has this one-on-one fight with. I think maybe Onlaf is the one who's just a wrecking ball in the battle in the book. Ethelstan squares off with him, almost gets killed. Uhtred throws in serpent breath to the fight when he loses his sword, and then he kills him, and that's like how the battle ends. And like I think it was a fight in the square.
They could have done that.
They should have done.
They could have done that.
They should have done that, right? Like even they could have still had him fight with Ingelmander and get Ingelmander afterwards, but they should have had him kill Onlaf with that sword, man.
That'd have been sick.
That was like kind of like the scene in the tracking shot where Edward hands the cup to Ethelstan. Like that to me in the book, that's when I was like, that's like Uhtred saying, like,
the version.
The kingdom is for you now. Like you're a warrior king. Like I'm an old man. We don't need me anymore. This is you. And he gives him the sword back. But I was like, I was hoping that was going to happen with Ingelmander, because like they're showing Uhtred like get stabbed and fall to his knees, and they're showing like him fighting, just scrapping with Ingelmander. I'm like, he's gonna throw the sword and he's gonna kill him with it. But he didn't. He's like, no, take him away.
I don't know how Ingelmander even stood with Ethelstan. Like Ethelstan is such a freaking good fighter.
I'm gonna say
he's
like distracted and emotional.
Yeah, it was just emotional. That's what I'm gonna say. Because
same thing.
Ethelstan was so badass in season 5, and then this whole movie, part of what I hated Ingelmander for was like in every other battle or whatever he was in, he was like having other people be like his henchmen hold down the bad guy, even if it was like someone without a weapon, and
he was like a peasant.
Yeah, he was someone surrendering, and he'd stab them, and so like it gave me the impression that he's not actually a good fighter. So I think there's another line in the movie too that's like, well, you're not that able with like a sword, but yeah, Ethelstan, he did win. I mean, like the guy was on top of him, and Ethelstan did a quick jujitsu move
he did a sweep.
He did a sweep to get on top and win the fight. So Ethelstan was never going to lose that fight, I think.
Yeah, I think it was just emotional at first, and then
Yeah.
then
It's
after
sort of
he
like
was
you're
like,
fighting someone you don't really want to kill.
yeah.
Yeah.
And Engelmander obviously, I guess, didn't feel any attachment towards him.
I
Was just
guess.
manipulating him. Which, man, that was rough. He's like, was anything real? And he's just like, yeah.
Chose my people over you. Like, yeah. Yeah,
Um,
man. It was and I'll tell you when Harry Ethelstan screams when he sees him, that was gnarly, dude.
yeah.
That was in the battle.
hmm
That got me pumped. That got
Yeah.
me pumped.
Eventually, Ethelstan's crowned. We do see him do the horizontal tango with
About to do it.
Well, you know what? So remember how when we watched Vikings, they like there's because it was a cable show originally. Anytime they had a sex scene, they pulled the pants down just enough,
Just enough.
just
Just
enough,
enough.
and they would start
That's
having.
what they did. Yeah.
That's what they did, but they were facing each other. They both have penises, and it looked like they had like inserted somehow. So
No.
I was like, what just happened? I was like, there's nothing in the front, and they were like, ugh, and I was like, what are you in?
They're
What are
just
you
rubbing, dude? They're just rubbing.
Just rubbing?
They just be rubbing.
Okay. Well, sorry if I sounded ignorant.
They're just
there to
sharpening
everyone
blades.
out there. Just scraping swords.
That's it. That's it.
That was their arc in the movie. That was foreshadowing when they first were battling swords. We know that later that they would be like more dramatically fighting with swords.
I was actually reading something that back in that time period where like it wasn't like today where it's like they didn't care as much back then whether you were this or that, like if you were attracted to someone. So like sexual orientation.
I think fucking anyone. I think,
but it wasn't as big of a deal to them as like it is now. Like where there's like I guess there's more category. I don't think there were like categories for it back.
No, they
then.
were just like having sex. Yeah, I think the proper thing to do was to have a wife and have kids.
Children. Yeah, especially if you're a king, you're supposed to make an heir.
And that's what you want to do. So that's why it was proper thing. But yeah,
but obviously in the movie, he still looks at it as a sin.
Greek society, they were like fucking little boys all the time, and then I think the Danes who were more liberal, I think probably fuck dudes all the time. Yeah. It was probably just more of how Christianity formed, and the sort of piety and strictness with sexual stuff, I think is what kind of helped shape that.
Yeah, and Ethelstan feels really guilty for what he's doing. And I love this one when Engelmander's basically like, well, it'll be okay if we just go kill Danes.
Ethelstan's like just had gay sex, and he's just like, oh no, like what do we do? And he's like, we should invade some pagans. And
yeah, that'll do it.
And he was like, you think that'll do it? And he's like, yeah. And he like gets out a whole map. He's like, here, and if we go here, then we can fuck on Tuesday. And if we go over here to Shetland, then we can fuck on Thursday.
Yeah.
And then
they cut that scene out, but we know it was there. And
that's what that was the energy I was getting when he like laid out the map and he was like all happy and energetic. It was like, oh, okay, yeah. And he's like, you think God will like this? And he's like, yeah.
Yeah, that was a crazy scene too. It was like some sort of like way they were planning using God's will, where he like moved the piece on what looked sort of like a weird board,
like a weird chessboard thing. And
I wonder if that's like one of the games that Ethelwald talked about earlier. Remember, like they used the pieces of a game to like talk about how they're going to infiltrate the camp, Eric and Siegfried's camp,
and it went to like a passage from the Bible,
right?
Like, and it was so he reads them the quote after the move, and then he tells them what that means.
Exactly. So it's like,
it's like we always talk about the spiritual interpretations of Danes and Saxons in the show, and it's always a fun commentary for us, I think. And it's funny when Uhtred then is hearing about all the crazy shit Ethelstan is doing. He runs into King Hal, who from the Welsh. And he hears that he's being subjugated. He hears that he's expecting donation, subjugation from the Scots and all these things. And he's like, what the hell's going on? And so he's going over to Ethelstan's tent, and he sees the two of them like clearly like
talking very close to
this
each other.
close to each other in the main flap of the tent. And he's like, oh, and then he goes in and he's like, can we talk alone? And he's like, Ethelstan, I don't care who you hump. And he's like, who told you? Who told you?
Yeah.
It's like, dude, you're in front of the flap. You're in front of the flap.
On a windy day. On a windy day.
You got to make sure it's not a windy day.
You got to make sure that wind's down before you do that in the flap, dude.
Do it in the flap. But that scene was so funny. It was funny because I just love that they say hump in the show. Since like season 1, they say hump. It's our destiny to hump tonight.
Yeah,
and things like it's always just funny to me. And then, but he said like Uhtred is like, I don't care who you hump, Ethelstan. And then Ethelstan's like, like
yeah,
so uncomfortable.
But he's being genuine. He's like, really, I don't care.
Yeah,
I just care about you.
Yeah.
So Uhtred's a cool dad.
Yeah, real cool
Uhtred
dad.
is a cool, understanding, like
very progressive dad.
Progressive dad, which is awesome. But he's like, I just care about you. And Uhtred knows at this point he's being manipulated.
Yeah.
Uhtred ain't no dummy.
Yeah, he knows he's dick whipped. He's like, and you just see him put it. He's like, oh, he's dick whipped. Okay, all right.
See, Alfred never let himself get whipped.
Mm-mm.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm. Edward did a little bit by Ethelhelm.
Everybody, all the kings, man, they seem really good when they're growing up, and then they get to being king and they get dick whipped. You know, it's just what happens.
Oh, you want to know another thing I'm not crazy happy about?
What?
Because Uhtred was a big part of Edward's life. And I know they weren't always on good terms, but they ended on bad terms when Edward died. And Uhtred makes the comment, it's like, oh, I was really hoping to reconcile with him.
Yeah.
Because they obviously ended on bad terms at the end of season 5.
Mm.
And
it would have been nice to have seen that, or like had a moment where Edward's dying and Uhtred shows up, right? And he's like, remember your oath.
That'd have been cool.
Uhtred. Protect Ethelstan. And then
that'd have been a cool way to start.
And that sort of hammers home the point of why he's and for people, I'm willing to bet, because right now this movie I think was #1 trending. I'm willing to bet there are people who have not seen the show and are watching this movie now, and I think that could have been something that helped hammer home Uhtred's motivations for being attached to Ethelstan. Just being like, oh, this guy that's dying was clearly his friend,
right?
And he's asking him to watch out for his son.
Like, even though they may have been estranged.
Yeah.
But like, that doesn't matter now because he's dying.
And now it's even more important because
he
was estranged and he's dying. And it's like, he wants to it just,
maybe
that could have been a quick scene. Not like, again, another half an hour to this movie.
And I don't know like where the time limit was. Like if they had like, it has to be an hour and 51 minutes, like, or whatever it was. I don't, maybe that's the case.
Yeah.
But
I know Netflix likes things to be like, the regular episodes to be like right under an hour, and
I'm pretty sure they have like a fairly
they were probably like,
hard...
we want it 2 hours,
to
make sure that this is viewed by as many people as possible. That's probably where that came from.
And I just would have liked to see Timothy Innes again. He played such a good King.
Well, Edward. You saw him like 10 days ago.
I know, at the premiere, and that made me think he was in the movie because
he's in the cast. Didn't you say he was in the cast? Listed
on Google. On Google.
Okay.
But maybe he was in the
box and got cut.
He was in the box.
he might have honestly been in the box. Did you ask him?
I should have asked him.
We'll ask someone. Again, that was a good scene between two of them because it was just really good. Like you could see the worry in Ethelstan while also still trying to be like sure of himself, and then also like worried about who did what, and like immediately he's like, did Aldhelm tell you this? Who told you this? Aldhelm? Who was it? And then later when Aldhelm goes to Uhtred's tent again, Aldhelm always sneaking up on people to give them information, like he's gonna kill them. You know, but he's always remember with Ethelfled.
Ethelfled, yeah.
He goes all the way like, He's like, shh, I have something to tell you. I'm your friend now.
I know. What if that's the way he went? What if that's the way he died? Like Uhtred just like immediately reflexively stabbed him when he came in the tent.
And just through the
Uhtred's like,
tent flap.
fuck, no. But that ultimately is because that stupid spy girl who is, I think, the daughter of
Anlaf.
Anlaf.
I think her name was Astrid, the character's name.
Yeah, Astrid. Yes, you're correct. She saw that conversation, and then ultimately that leads to one of the more sad scenes of the movie, which
again, I couldn't
watch.
believe this happened either. I
Mhm.
mean, season 5, Last Kingdom, which is wiping out characters. Outhelm's death, man, that hit me. That
hit me.
Because his character originally was true to the books, and he was a dick, and he was working with the king of Mercia, Ethel Red. That's it, Ethel Red.
There you go.
Here we go, getting our Ethels back. We'll have to talk about that too. The fourth wall breaking in this,
Yeah.
but yeah, he was always kind of a dick, and then at some point he realizes Ethel Red is not serving Mercia anymore, so he turns around and starts helping Ethel Fled, and then he becomes loyal to Ethel Fled, and then eventually loyal to Edward, and then he starts serving Iagafu. But anyway, just he's always been like a cool character, just being like super loyal and like keeping his like emotions in check. And
Yeah.
so how he played his death, James Northcote, I thought was so cool. And like
Totally.
he didn't whack away the guy's hand when he was just kind of like, he's like, and he just accepted it.
He's like, I should have died in season 3, at the end of season 3.
Dude, but for real, in the books, he continues to be a dick, and he like tries to kill Uhtred at some point. And I think he just got done like beating a woman or something, and Uhtred just like brutally murders him.
And it's
like,
cool because the show does that. Like they recognize that they did the same thing with Harry McIntyre. He was not like really supposed to be in season 2 as far as where the books go.
Mm-hmm.
And they like, he was so good in season 1 that they're just like, let's keep him in this show.
Yeah.
And let's make him likable. And then we'll make him unlikable again later.
Mm.
James Northcote, I think probably the same thing. He was so good.
Yeah.
And the guy, they had to keep him.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But now he's gone, and he did not totally die in vain, like I said, because the message he got out allowed Uhtred to get to Bebbanburg before Ingolmundr.
Yeah, but
it didn't matter because the frickin' maid.
Exactly, the goddamn maid. But yeah, it was a good death scene, but it was kind of tough. It was, again, I think if I hadn't met Harry and liked Harry and talked with Harry, I probably would hate Ethelstan a lot, because he again, there's complexity and you can see him being good with Uhtred, but he kills Outhound, man, just because he's like,
you can't hate Harry.
But you know, I can, and I don't, but I'm just saying I might have, you know.
But that's why I'm so glad that Ethelstan like recognized what he did wrong, and he redeemed. He had redemption at the end. Let's say that.
Yeah.
But he also think that Eldhelm knew he was gay, and he couldn't have that.
He's like, that shit ain't Christian.
That was a tough scene, and the fact that he like showed up to it too. And again, Harry Gilby, not like sort of ruthless and like, now you're gonna die. Sort of sorry that he has to do it, that he feels he has to do it.
Yeah, he at the time he thinks like, you turn your back on me and I'm going to on you. And he's just like, oh my God.
Walks away. By hanging. Have we had a good hanging in the Last Kingdom? They hung him upside down.
I don't think we have. I don't think we've had a good hanging.
and then to frickin' show him the body. Oh, that was tough.
That was mean. It was satisfying when they know that
Ingolmundr's there
Ingolmundr is there to.
And I love how they use Iadgifu as like the one to sort of tell him off before he realizes it.
Yeah. They're like, they know it. And then they're like, it's already too late. They should have killed him right there, you know?
Yeah.
But, you know, they wanted to keep him as hostage and talk with Ethelstan. All right. I keep tripping over these Ethels because we have so many now. We have 5 seasons worth of Ethels and Athels. Let's talk about the show recognized it too.
Yes,
And
they recognize several things. But they
let's talk
recognize
about some of the
yeah.
fourth wall breaking, which I thought was funny, and some cool
and it's
bro
not
moments.
really fourth wall breaking. It's not like they looked at the audience and said it all made sense in the show, that it wasn't like super tacky, that it was funny. It was good and clever and funny.
It didn't feel like MCU humor to me.
No,
like the recent movies that MCU's put out.
Right.
That are just like over the top, ridiculous. Everyone's trying to be like Deadpool times Thor Ragnarok times
right.
Guardians of the Galaxy. But anyway, though, it didn't feel like that. It was funny because they go up to this one guy. They don't know him, but they're like, "Oh, great! You know, like we fought it with Windhelm at the Battle of."
But they said we felt with we serve
Wilbur.
Elf. Sorry, all the names are similar.
Yeah, we
because they were trying to get info out of him, and
he's like, you know, all those Saxon names, how they sound the same.
Yeah,
and
which is
and it was like yes, that's like our main job on this channel is to help clarify who's who.
Yeah, I know. And that was a cool little moment too, because it was like Citric and Finnan like working together to like get info out of some random guy, and it worked perfectly.
We always have Uhtred order Citric to go somewhere, get info, and come back. And he usually overhears stuff. Maybe we'll see him overhear stuff, but we don't actually always see him like get the info out of someone. So it's kind of cool to actually see them like use some like trickery and their charm to get some stuff out of someone, because that's what they are, right? They're like these guys that just have all these streetwise, but they're also epic battle heroes. And that was a fun scene. Another time they sort of broke the fourth wall was after Uhtred's sword was taken. Finnan gives him another sword that has an ember in the hilt. Nowhere near as cool though.
No.
And he starts giving out names. One of them was what ball cutter or ball taker,
manslayer.
And then he said Uhtred, sword of Uhtred.
Yeah. Because that's like what, like if like someone's referencing the show, they'll be like, I'm telling them about the Last Kingdom. They'll like look, he's like, wait, is that the one with Uhtred, son of Uhtred?
Yeah, if they're more casual watchers and they've only seen like a season or so or like a few episodes, that's what they'll be like, oh, you mean Uhtred, son of Uhtred. And so that
sticks with people. You know,
who has a son named Uhtred.
Clever line.
And should have a, and we talked about in our awards episode that we just put out, a dog named Uhtred. We made that joke. So yeah, it would have been funny.
Yeah,
it was cool.
And then there's another little one at the beginning when Aldhelm is going to go up to Northumbria, and he's like, I can't remember exactly what he says, but he's like, we have to go to the Last Kingdom. You know, like every now and then in the show they'd say it, but to me that was like an obvious like nod to the show, like the Last Kingdom.
Yeah, I'd still say the best one was season 4, where Edward is like, you need to watch over Ethelstan because Mercia is the last, or wherever, East Anglia is the last kingdom. And
I think like, Northumbria, right?
Was it North? Oh yeah, he was like Northumbria. I don't know. It was one of those two. But anyway, though, that was the best delivery of the show title in a sense.
Totally. Oh man, that seems like forever ago, the ending of season 4.
Right?
When they're like looking over the hills and like, look where we are now, dude. It's over, man.
It's over.
Oh shit. Little we know who that little kid would become.
Little did we know he'd be Dick Whit.
Actually, there's one more fourth wall break. Sort of. It is kind of a cool nod when they're talking about the English and how like Uhtred sort of like, it can't be a king to unite the English. Maybe, and Pure League sort of like, maybe it needs to be someone like you, Uhtred, who leads all men, you know, not just Saxon, not just Dane, or not just pagan, you know. And Finnan says something. Finnan in the movie being Irish, and Mark Rowley in real life being Scottish. Both countries have been subjugated to British rule at one. It still is, and part of the other country still is, and otherwise Ireland has its independence. But Finnan says, I don't have to call myself English, do I? Which is, it's a cool nod. Everybody at the theater
Yeah.
laughed when he said that, because it's sort of like, okay, well, they do sort, you are in the United Kingdom in Scotland, but they don't want to identify as English,
Mm.
you know. So I don't know. It was a cool kind of nod to history too. And
Yeah, like I'm from Pennsylvania. I wouldn't want to be associated with people from Ohio, right? Like
thanks for not saying New York. I appreciate it.
I like New York. I like
Oh
New
no,
York.
you don't. You always shit on New York.
When have I shit on New York? What have I
I
said
don't
on
know.
New York?
I'm always like, hey, I'm in New York. He's like, you.
Oh, New York
Yeah.
City. New York City. Yeah.
Oh,
That's
well.
different.
Ah, well, whatever. The other thing that's interesting about this movie, are there any more breaking the fourth walls we missed?
I think that's it. As
They
Mel.
do
If we
say-
missed any, let us know. But
let
we
us know that. I feel
we,
like
we
there may
talk
have
about
been
it in
one
our
that we-
reaction every time they happen.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of characters were not in the movie that were not dead at the end of season 5. There's no Steor, but I think Steor is dead in the books before this.
Yeah. So
So that wouldn't have made sense necessarily for her to be in the movie anyway.
we talk about that in our episode 6 breakdown for season 5, that Citriger was actually king in the final book. Maybe he died halfway through it. I can't remember.
Mhm.
But he was still alive in the last book. But Ciora was dead. I think she died the battle for Vember, I think,
Yeah.
is when she died.
Yeah.
So it's kind of
Yeah.
like, that's kind of weird that she's not even mentioned.
So yeah, so we didn't get to see Finn Elliott as Uhtred's son in this, but they do mention the character, at least. Unlike Steor, they don't really mention Steor at all. But at least
Yeah, I didn't hear him.
with young Uhtred, they Ingelmander actually says, when he's sort of saying who he is, about how he found Christ through the teachings of Alfred and through your son who's in Rome.
Oh, I did hear that, because then Uhtred said,
Yeah.
like, oh, he is a scripture genius, and I'm just the
Something
fool
like
that
that.
made him, or something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
I like
So-
that line.
At least they acknowledged him.
Uhtred's oldest son, who was originally named Uhtred, when he became a priest, and Uhtred found out,
Right.
he renamed him Osbert, and
Right.
then his youngest son Osbert, he named Uhtred. Then,
I think that'd have been way too confusing for the movie.
yeah, that would have been too much to have. But I'll say after that, the two of them became estranged, and when Uhtred actually shows up in the final book, they're kind of even rivals for a bit, but then they reconcile, and I'll just tell you that. And I think what happens between the two of them is good, but yeah, I was kind of disappointed. I was kind of missing his other two children in this.
Yeah.
I think they could have added to it. And again, that
Um,
almost makes me think, because of how successful The Last Kingdom has been, getting more successful since it's been on Netflix. And then now this movie's trending. Like, are they gonna, and they've left the ending ambiguous, are they gonna maybe put out another little movie? I don't know.
You know what? I hope so. And I feel like you could do several things. I feel like you could give some of the side characters more of a spotlight. Like, I'll tell you what, I wish they did some of the things with Finnan that they did in the books in the show. They're some of the best moments in the books, some of the earlier books. That's sort of the middle of the book series.
Yeah.
With Finnan were some of my most memorable moments reading, and they did not do them in the show. That would be cool. Of course, it would be hard to do that without bringing Uhtred back, which I think would feel weird.
It would be, maybe they could just keep him in Ember and have like young Uhtred or Osbert go with him, or
Like
or
a
something.
Sigtrigger like prequel spinoff or something. I don't know.
Mhm. But I think you could still do things after this. And I remember when we talked with Bernard Cornwell, he even told us that he was a little disappointed that he had sort of wrapped it up and edited it. Then he felt like he could do more. And I think they're like coming out with like some cookbook story about Uhtred or something.
Like more short stories or something. Like,
Yeah. So
yeah.
maybe they're leaving it open so they can do that. I don't know.
I hope they do something more in the future. As
it would
of
be
now,
pretty cool.
as of now, this seems like the end of the journey. A lot of the posts that like all the actors were putting out the day it was released were sort of like like they had a lot of finality to the way the posts were written on social media.
Hmm.
So I think they all are thinking that this is it. This is like the last hurrah for the show and the movie, but like it's so loved that like years are gonna go by. I feel like someone someday is gonna want to do something more.
And I think they could keep putting out these little movies. I think that's one thing they could do to keep the show going. Or
Yeah.
if they want to do another series.
One thing that was really surprising to me is it was a different actress to play Yabgifu, which is kind of crazy because the actress who played her in the movie, her name is Elaine Cassidy. She's an Irish actress. She was phenomenal in the movie, I thought. And I thought the one who played in season 5 was really good as well. And her name is Sonia Cassidy. They're not related. Apparently, I'm pretty sure they're not actually related. It's kind of crazy. It's interesting that I don't know why they recasted. Obviously, Elaine did a fantastic job.
Yeah,
so they knew what they were
both
doing.
Good. Maybe just scheduling. Well, when we were watching the trailer, like I was like, is that Edward's wife? And I was like, I think it's. And then when we were watching the movie, I asked you the same thing. I was like, is that Edward's wife? And you're like, yeah. So I didn't even. I was like, I think that's the same person because it. I was like, okay, I guess maybe her makeup's done differently. Is what I
gotta look up pictures of the two of them. They just look alike in person. They definitely look. They have differences, but they look pretty similar.
Yeah.
And so it's crazy they have the same last name too. But you think they're sisters.
I wonder if there was like just when they were shooting this movie, if it was just tough to get people in because Ruby Hartley was missing. Edith wasn't there.
Eliza told us that she was unable to do it because of a project. I'm not really sure where she would have fit in this movie anyway, besides just kind of fun to see her.
Yeah.
I don't think there would have been a lot of time to explore Aylesworth in this. I mean, she wasn't even supposed to be alive.
Yeah.
So
but yeah. Edith, they were setting her, at least to me,
Yeah.
it seemed like they were setting her up as like the romantic partner to Uhtred, and Uhtred does marry a woman named Edith in the books. I don't know if it's the same Edith. There are so many people with similar names. Like there's like 2 or 3 generations of Ethelhelms in the books, and I think the Ethelhelm that they have in the show, they just kept him for like most of those Ethelhelm parts.
Yeah.
And so I think it might be something similar with Edith. I could be wrong on that, but anyway, though, I
was really surprised she wasn't in this because she had seemed to become. Of course, in season 5, she had sort of set up her own business and became this sort of, I see her like an entrepreneur woman she was like traveling around. So, but she sort of became somewhat of a mainstay since season 4 in the cast. And I thought she'd be in the movie. Very surprised she wasn't in it. Would have liked to see Edith again. She was a cool character.
It was kind of weird. Let's talk about now. Finally, Ethel Stan does figure out that Ergelmunder has betrayed him. Uhtred was telling the truth.
He accepts it.
Uhtred,
I think he deep down knew when Uhtred told him in that one scene, but he just was in denial because of his love for.
Yeah.
But I think like deep down he was like, Uhtred's probably right because he's been right with every single thing.
And everything he said was so rational and made sense. And eventually, though, he's like, damn, I messed up. You don't have to fight for me. But Uhtred and his boys, they're riding home and like, we're gonna fight. Like, we're gonna do that. And they're an army together. Eventually, Ethelstan shows up with his guys and the Welsh, and they square off against all the Danes that have been united, as well as the Scots under Constantine. And we get an awesome shield wall battle. And man, was it good. I'll say, I feel like they could have like done something a little bit more. I feel like the build up to it and the execution of the setup and going into it and the pre-battle speech and the shield wall calls and all of that was perfect. And then the battle was cool filmed. It felt realistic and gritty. And there was like, I think Citric had like an awesome move.
Yes.
There were some cool shots of Pure Leg crawling through the battle.
There were some unique things that hadn't been in other battles for sure.
Yeah.
Which is we want like a new, like, we never want a battle to be exactly the same.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was a little bit of nod to the very first battle we ever see in the Last Kingdom, with Uhtred sort of doing the backward steps that they do.
Yes, with
That was
Bubba,
kind of cool.
right?
I don't know if that was intentional, but I see it. Ease, yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
I was wondering that too. It to me, I was like, it's at least making me think of that. That
makes like a lot of sense for why they'd use those spike things too, because like if you're doing an approach where you're only going to move backwards, why not throw those spike things in front of you? Because like if you're going to ever charge, you don't want to throw spikes on the ground in front of you.
Mm-mm.
Right? So that was cool.
I thought that was cool. And again,
it was cool.
Almost every battle throughout the show, they've always had, if Uhtred's in it, he uses some sort of other tactic, some smart scheme or trap or something as part of it. So it was cool that they kept doing that.
They sort of use like a narrow place. Like they didn't have the high ground, but they used like where the trees are. So like it was a little bit more narrow.
Yeah, they couldn't get around them as easy.
Yeah, and then they kept easing back. And obviously they had Uhtred's son waiting to attack and flank them with frickin' horses with logs tied to them to like trip.
That was
was cool. That was a cool. Hadn't seen that one. I don't remember seeing anything like that. And though I guess the only thing I can think similar to any battle I've ever seen is like in Lord of the Rings, the Oliphants that had like the rope between their tusks.
Yeah.
They would kind of like plow people with that. But like this was cool. I thought it pretty unique. And then the other super unique one was led by the orc. This one guy has like an orc helmet, which was cool. And they made the flying V.
Yeah,
if you've seen Mighty Ducks, they literally yelled "Flying V" of shield walls and just try to wedge it.
I think
makes
that
sense.
was a real maneuver to break shield walls. I think a wedge was a thing. I think that was a thing to do.
I like too how like the last ram that they do, he just like doesn't even have his shield up anymore.
He does it.
He just like kicks into it. He just charges as hard as he can. That was a pretty cool.
That was a lot of cool moments. I felt as though there should have been some other animosity or like Constantine goes off the chain, or something like that. Or like I said, I think how the book did it with like sort of Uhtred handing the reins off to Ethelstan there. I think that would have been perfect to have seen. I think that would have been an awesome thing to have seen.
Yeah, because I thought a little bit the way they did it, where Ethelstan it was cool that he won the fight, and the fight was cool. Like Ethelstan looked badass, but it was a little anticlimactic when he just was like, "All right, take him away."
Yeah, he was like, "All right, no, go get him." And I was like,
"Go take him away."
Like you're in the heat of this moment with someone that you love that fucked you over, and you're in a battle for your kingdom and your life, and you have the sense to be like, let's get a group of guys, take him away, and we'll have a conversation later. I will continue this battle until then.
It's pretty crazy that Domhnall and Sihtric had a one-on-one fight.
Oh yeah,
Domhnall being Constantine's nephew.
Yeah, that was cool. That was cool. Like very quick paced. Two of them looked dangerous. I was like, God damn. Like,
yeah, you can tell Arnis and Ross Anderson, who plays Domhnall, worked really hard on that one. They got in the nitty gritty.
I think I could be wrong, but I think Ross might have been a stuntman.
I'm not sure. We haven't talked to Ross.
I think Rod Hallett told us that. I think so. I could be completely wrong. But remember, he was like one of those explosive guys too from those like run up. I think he has more of a stunt background. I could be making that up. And then I know Arnis, like he had some kickboxing or MMA fight.
Well, he even told us like he wanted to incorporate more jiu-jitsu type moves.
Yeah.
When we talked to him into the show, and he's done that ever since he told us that. Like he's had more of those type moves.
Yeah.
In season 5, in the battle in the tents and stuff. Like,
yeah, when the two of them squared off, it was quick and brutal, and it felt like if two guys who were really skilled met each other in the middle of midst all this, like they would make it quick. It would go down, bam, bloody, and then done. And that's like
Yeah.
that's how it happened.
And the other thing, I don't think we get how, with Jacob Dudman, who played Osbert, or in the books it would become Uhtred.
Mhm.
In the books, he's like a mini Uhtred.
Yeah.
He's very capable fighter. He's very smart. And in this movie, he just didn't get a chance to shine like that.
No.
He did some cool things, but it'd have been cool to like see him do some more badass stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the second to the last book, Uhtred is still an old man, and I think the last book, it's mostly other people doing action, and even books before that, it's like Finan is still sometimes doing action because Uhtred always describes him as like the quickest guy he's ever met. But it's also like Ethelstan and his son doing action. Yeah, it would have been cool to have seen him do some cool stuff, and honestly too, it would have been cooler to see Uhtred have some more
Just maybe
unique
like
battle moments. He really
one-on-one or something. I don't know.
Yeah, like maybe square off against Constantine. Again, I just want to.
That'd have been weird because I don't think they dislike each other at all.
No, they don't. I think they like each other.
That'd have been a little. I don't know.
But even if they did, and it was just quick, and no one killed each other, and they just got separated, like it would have just been cool to have seen something because he was so awesome. At least for us, he was such an awesome part to the show. But yeah, Uhtred too. I can't think of anything in this movie. I was like, that was an awesome battle part that Uhtred had. You know,
well, they were pretty basic, but I guess that can kind of go with that. He's not supposed to be as good as he was.
mm-hmm.
You know, like
Again,
there was even a comment about them being old earlier in the movie about like him, Finan, and Sihtric like being these older guys that don't fight like they used to. But
they're supposed to be like 80 or 90 years old.
Yeah.
And to another part that I thought was kind of taken from the second to last book. The second to last book, I forget. I think it's like Sword of Kings or the Sword of the Wolf or something like that. Yeah, it's something like it might be. I think it's Sword of Kings. Anyway, though, second to the last book before Warlord, it's really just an Uhtred and gang adventure. The whole thing, like it barely focuses on anyone else. It's Uhtred fights another guy and stuff. But in that story, you end up hating this character. That Uhtred gets stripped and beaten and like sent off on a horse. And I thought that's what they were going to do when they took his like clothes, like he just had his underclothes on and banished him. I was like, oh shit, Ingolmander is going to just strip him down and beat him like naked.
When I think about it too, I feel like Ingolmander's the only one that I really wanted to see get it in the movie. Like, even Anlaf, I didn't feel so strong that I was like, oh, I want him to die. You know,
no, he was just a Dane, just manipulating people. And he wanted land, land and silver.
Right. It was just really Ingolmander was like the only bad guy that I wanted to see get it.
Mm-hmm.
I guess now I will say Astrid too, because I didn't like her. She was always conniving and spying, and she got an arrow, so that was a little satisfying.
Got Outhelm killed.
Yeah, she got it. Good.
And the guys that took Serpent Breath, I wanted to see them die.
But we didn't see them get it.
That was disappointing.
That was disappointing.
But the battle, I love the build up to it. And again, maybe I'm downplaying it. If I see it again, it'll be really amazing. But in the moment, it felt like there could have just been something else. And again, maybe
I think
it was perfect, but just the moment where Uhtred gets stabbed 30 times, and I start worrying if they're gonna ruin the ending by having Uhtred dead. I think maybe that just got me distracted. But it was good.
I think
I'm so glad they did a shield wall. I'm so glad because we didn't get.
And the way they do the call is pretty cool. Like Ethelstan tries to go, like the call from Anlaf was decent. Okay,
pretty decent.
Ethelstan's was pretty weak, and Uhtred's just like, hold my shield, and like they do. He says shield, takes a breath to get the full wall out after that. Like shield.
Whoa!
He paused.
I think that was what was wrong with our shield wall calls with James, is we didn't pause.
Too quick. Yeah, probably. That's
Uhtred knows how to do it.
Yeah. Uhtred knows how to do it better than anybody.
It was great that he did it, and it was good. He had a cool pre-battle speech.
I like how they had more spears. So like everything about the battle seemed more realistic. than
Mhm.
some of the other battles, even though as awesome as some of the other battles were. And they do feel real. I'm not saying they don't feel real, but like just the way they showed the pissing themselves, the puking and the spears. This one thing that we talked with Mark Riley about was that they use spears all the freaking time in these battles. That was like the main weapon in Shield Walls was the spear.
Think about how
thrust.
much safer you are too. Just you
Yeah.
can reach someone else further away without getting close to them and getting hurt yourself, right? So
Yeah.
like
It's such like an underutilized weapon.
yeah.
Like when we think back, like that was maybe not then. They think they used them all the time back then.
They
but,
use them all the time for real though.
but we don't in movies and stuff. We don't see a lot of people using
The sword
spears
is cool. It's like they always just give everyone swords in movies, but
until Mando got that freaking spear in
until it
Mandalorian,
got-
and then they
yes,
freaking
that
melted
was
it. It was the
sweet.
worst thing ever. Yo, Ingrid and other people of Bebbanburg getting killed.
oh yes.
That
This
sucked.
yeah, that really sucked.
That sucked balls.
I didn't like that.
And yeah, I didn't like that either. And it was like Uhtred had been banished, and Finan, and I said to Steve when we watched it, Citric and Finan, like somebody came to him and said, "Hey, Uhtred needs you in Wessex," and they just left. And I'm like, "Come on, guys! Like, you guys have to have like a code. Like, what's the password that Uhtred would have told you to tell us info?"
Mhm.
But yeah, Finan losing Ingrid like that, man, that's brutal. We didn't need
Yeah.
that.
And how Mark did that too when he was just like screaming for her and running.
Yeah.
I was just like, oh, that just cut me.
Yeah, we haven't talked enough about Mark in this movie. I think he was great. Finan again,
Oh, yeah.
just probably he definitely had the best bro banter in the movie by
Mhm.
far.
Yeah. Felt good to have that back.
Yeah.
But there wasn't a lot of that in 5. There was
No.
still hints of it, but
Yeah.
it definitely didn't feel as much as the season 3 and 4 to me.
I think he had some of the funniest lines in the movie, which we would expect.
Mm-hmm.
Glad he survived.
Glad he survived.
Can't remember any specific amazing battle beats because we saw him have some crazy ones in season 5.
Oh yeah.
But he was definitely present in the battle, and I think they were going for just a more realistic battle.
Yeah.
A little bit less
That's-
glamorous than the ones before.
That's what the whole movie to me, the show has always been about historical fiction being real and grounded. I mean, you could nitpick. You could be like, they're not wearing enough chainmail armor. They're not, but I mean, this one to me just felt more like,
Yeah.
like we're not going over the top with any like crazy cinematic, like over the cliffs or into the trenches thing.
'Cause I think there was
Like
this
this is going to
mindset
be
that,
how
like,
it really was at that
Yeah.
battle.
I feel like there was
Yeah.
this mindset that like, oh, we did this battle like this. The next one needs to be at this level, and the next one needs to be at this level, and
Mhm.
and this one, like, let's just make it good. Let's just make it a solid battle. Let's make it realistic. Let's make it exciting. Let's not worry about adding some crazy effect.
Mhm.
Which they still added new things, new elements to a battle that we didn't see, which we appreciate that. So
Yeah, I thought it was
I think it was well done.
It was
well done.
It was cool. Yeah, but I mean, I did like the movie. It's really heavy and serious. The fact that there's some characters that die and some that don't show up
Definitely does
Um,
not leave you as happy as
doesn't
the
leave
show
you as
left
happy
you.
as season 5. But the thing is though, it doesn't take away season 5.
good
If
it
you
is.
watch
No, it
The
does
Last
not.
Kingdom,
No.
you finish season 5, I think I'm still gonna just feel that way. And like the when I was finishing up our award show talk and going through stuff again, and I just sat down and pretty much rewatched the last episode, and in preparation for watching this movie, and like I just like it even more than I did before. Like there's some things like The Last Jedi that I like dislike more over time, and like
Yeah.
Game of Thrones season 8. And there's some things like this that I like even more over time. I'm just like, man, people did it right. They just did
Yeah.
it right.
Like I said, I liked the movie more after my second watch through.
I think it will too, now that I won't have that fear that they're just killing Uhtred in the middle of this battle by like a bunch of unknown dudes without throwing a sword to Ethelstan or anything, cool. like that.
Right.
Again,
so I didn't watch it with that expectation, so it's a little bit of a different perspective.
yeah, I had some
Um,
expectations. I'd say that is different too than when we watched the show or any other season
Right.
too. I wouldn't read the books for that
Right.
season,
Which is what like I'm reading them now.
and then I would see the show, and then I'd be
right.
like, "Oh, this was different than the book." Okay, all right.
Exactly.
But like in my head, I'd be like, "The show is what happened," and now in my head, I'm like, "The book is what happened. Why is the show fucking up?"
No.
It didn't fuck up. But there are some things that could have met, and
There always is. Every season there was like things I wish from the books could have been, but
like when
sadly,
Purlik
like,
threw the bodies down
oh my
on
god,
Siegfried and Eric's army. That
Yes.
was
the coolest
was
thing.
a travesty that did not happen.
That should have happened.
That
But
could have happened in this movie.
obviously
just like
they can't do
after
it.
he
and
crawls away, just starts throwing.
I think it's good though they differentiate themselves from the book, so it's not exactly like it. So they're two separate things.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
It's
they
kind of
can
like you
still
get
say
a
it's
bonus then
based
when
on
you
the
read the
books.
book. Yeah,
Exactly. It's based on the books, but you can
kinda
look at it
get a
as two
bonus.
separate stories. They had the wolf people who would be your people.
My people.
Like people like the characters like the wolf people, the wolf warriors they called them. Those are like factions of people that if this was a series instead of one movie, it'd have
Uh-huh.
been cool to get more background on them.
Mhm.
It'd have been cool to learn a little bit more about Anlaf. Because the actor was really good. He had a good look. Um, he was I don't think he had enough airtime to become super captivating. He was good though. Don't get us wrong. He did a
Yeah,
great
usually
job
the
playing
show
him.
you spend time with the Saxons, you spend time with the Danes. Uhtred spends it pretty much an even amount of time between the two of them before they fight. In this
Right.
one, he really only had one scene where they all get together and they're talking about how shitty Ethelstan is, and then he's pretty much just back with Ethelstan most of the movie.
Right.
Which good, but then you can't get as strong Danes or Constantine or whoever because of that. But let's then talk about some of the most important things. Let's talk about what's your best bro moment from this movie, then, Colby.
My bro moment has got to be it's at that scene when Uhtred's about to go to Valhalla. I love when Ethelstan gets down and they do their oath together, Uhtred and Ethelstan. And Ethelstan doesn't stand above him like he had it during the movie. He stands eye level with him, or he kneels eye level with him.
Yeah, yeah.
To me, that was some cool symbolism of how Ethelstan looks at Uhtred and how Uhtred should be treated. You know.
Mm-hmm.
But what I would love about this bro moment, what makes it my favorite bro moment, was when Uhtred says to Ethelstan, "Make me a promise that you will not marry and you will not have kids. You'll give your throne to your brother Edmund." And what this does for Ethelstan is it sort of says to Ethelstan without announcing it to everybody else in the room, be who you are. Be homosexual if you want, if you like men. This will give you an out. You can always tell people that it was a promise I had made. That's why I don't have an heir. That's
People
why
like,
I'm
well,
not
why
married.
don't you have any heirs? Well, Uhtred made me swear that Edmund
I had to
would,
give it.
so that's why.
But just think of how cool that is between Uhtred and Ethelstan. Like Uhtred doesn't care about his sexual orientation. He just loves him as a son and wants him to be happy.
That's a real bro moment.
That's that's a real bro moment right there. So that's mine.
That is pretty cool.
Another kind of cool one they had that we should just mention is like when Finan brought Uhtred the sword just to try to console him for losing his sword. When he says that great line, and just Finan, man, being there for Uhtred does it ever get old?
No. And that's my bro moments is just all. If you're taking that one, I'm just taking all of like the little interactions that they had like the hug with Aldhelm and the, like you said, giving the sword, and when they find Uhtred in Winchester, all those little moments I just want to lump together.
Totally, dude. So cool. And I told you, like, these are almost bro moments. All the times Uhtred tried to like get through to Ethelstan.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even though he knew Ethelstan was going to get pissed, he never gave up in that and just trying to like bring him back to reality. I I don't think we can count them as bro moments because Ethelstan didn't reciprocate it. Maybe, I don't know, but Uhtred was definitely being a bro.
It's an attempt. It's definitely an attempt on Uhtred's
attempted
end.
bro moment. Attempted bro. Most anti-bro moment was when Ethelstan killed his actual brother.
Yeah.
That was not
The
very
anti-bro
bro.
moment was when he
was not very-
killed his actual brother.
Yeah.
Best moment from this, and I'm gonna steal the shield wall. Is what I'm gonna steal right out of the gate. Here.
Yes. Dude, we freaked
Um,
out. We freaked out when that
I was so happy. There was shield walls in season 5, but it was never. And you could say, well, Steve, the shield wall was obviously a staple for when Constantine was pushing the men off the cliff, but it wasn't a shield wall battle in the sense that we've got people like evenly fighting. It's scrapping. You know,
You look like Ethelstan there for a second.
You know, just I'm the king of England. So in this one, we get pretty awesome shield wall call, and I love how they panned up and like the camera angles.
Oh, that was amazing! That camera angle,
the shots they used to
the shield wall clash.
me,
I know we've seen it before, but that was great.
Yeah, to me, it looked like most of those guys were real. You know, again, maybe the CG was just really good in this, but especially when they do like the overhead like swoop, maybe that was even like 2 different shots kind of put together. Like maybe they had all the guys, all the stuntmen on one side, and they like cut and refilmed the same arc, and they just had all the stuntmen redressed in the different armor on the other side, and then during the battle they broke it up into smaller groups that you couldn't see. But anyway, though, it just looked like those were all real guys. At the very least, it didn't look like 2 CGI like TV movie armies fighting each other. It looked like a movie with real dudes, and it felt real and gritty. And I was just so happy to have a shield wall. It just felt dangerous. It just felt like how it does in the books. It just
I like how it's just blades flying around. Anybody could get stabbed.
Yeah,
like,
and that's what you
like
see with Pure Leg.
Yeah.
Which again, I was surprised Pure Leg lived. You know, like
me too.
Like,
he got it bad.
He got stabbed in the neck right out.
He has less sort of. He's like lost some weight.
Yeah, he's lost weight.
So running so much in seasons 4 and 5. He got stabbed bad in 5 too, and he survived.
That's right. He's unkillable.
He's unkillable. He's invincible. But yeah, my favorite moment, I'm gonna have to go with the end. Even though, like I've said many times in this, it's not exactly what I wanted to happen, but it was so freaking well done.
And you mean like the Valhalla and the going to modern day Bember, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah.
Because it gave me a feeling, even though I might not be happy with his fate, that Uhtred, I think, would be satisfied with his own fate. Even if it's only in his head, I think if that's the path that he goes down, he's seeing some of the people he's loved most in life there. And so I can take some solace in that.
He's fulfilled.
If that is that fate, if that is the fate. But also the zoom out of the castle, of the real castle. That was really cool. That was, it was pretty cool. I want to know who had that idea, because that was a great idea. Because it just connected, like, a lot of the events in the Last Kingdom really happened. We don't know exactly how they happened, but they happened, and they were critical events in the formation of England.
Which England shaped so much of the world, right?
And and to connect this location that was so vital to the show and show where it is now, what it looks like now. To me personally, it connects me even more to the movie and show. I don't really know what else to say about it. It was a pretty powerful moment to me that they did that, and I thought that was a great choice. That was a great choice.
I'm eager to watch this again when I have the emotional energy to.
I know.
And see how I feel now that I've already seen it and I know what's going to happen, and see if I look at it any differently. But I'm glad, at least in my mind right now, I don't think they ruined the perfect ending for 5.
No,
I still don't think it was as good though. And as some of the seasons of The Last Kingdom.
I would agree.
As a whole. But it was still great. I mean,
It was still great. It was fun to watch. It was exciting.
I'd still rank it above
Acting was phenomenal.
most. I would still rank it higher than any other Netflix like battle period piece movie they've done, like by far.
Again, we've always said this though, the caliber of The Last Kingdom, it is hard to live up to what they've done already in like seasons 1, 2, and 3. That's tough. Season 5 did it. Season 5 blew our minds at the end.
Yeah.
And even if it was predictable, even if it was somewhat predictable, it was still phenomenal. This movie was great. This movie was a really good movie. To The Last Kingdom standard, it's close. It's maybe a little above the standard we give it. Does it soar above it? I don't think so. But it's really good.
Yeah.
You know, I was really curious to like, how can they do a Last Kingdom thing in one movie? Like, with so much happens, and they pulled it off. They did. It moves fast, but they pulled it off. And I love about this movie that Uhtred, his final words that we see on the screen are, guess what they are?
My name is Batman.
Well, I was kind of surprised they didn't go that route, but no, he actually says this weird sort of unique line that we've never heard. Destiny is all.
Oh, that is cool. I wonder what that means.
It's cool. Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of cryptic. I don't get it.
But
No, it's cool that.
is-
What do you think that he like said it like sort of with a question? He sort of like destiny is all. Do you think that sort of lends itself to like we're leaving this ending ambiguous? Like,
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think it just goes like how we were saying. Season 5 was so definitive. I think in giving us like the happy Uhtred ending, and I think they just want to go a different route and leave this kind of ambiguous. And I think that's probably why they did it, and they still wanted to end it with that, but then kind of be like.
Totally.
You know.
And I also really like how Osbert says to him at that moment, like, I'm going to, or before that, we're going to rebuild Bebbanburg in stone, because as we know now, the castle is stone.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool. Pretty cool line.
Thank you, people of Last Kingdom, people who worked on Seven Kings Must Die.
Thank you to the actor. I think it's a good time to just like say thank you, because so many people worked very, very hard to bring us the show and the movie, and we're just so grateful to the people that did that. And we know the camaraderie that was built on set. It leaks, it spills out. We couldn't be more thankful for the show and the movie. We really couldn't.
Yeah, and this kind of marks some turning points for us. So we are still going to be talking about The Last Kingdom. We're going to be putting out more things on Seven Kings Must Die.
Any excuse we have to talk about it, we will. 5 years from now, if they never put out anything Last Kingdom again, I'm sure we will find something more to talk about of The Last Kingdom.
We will keep doing that. We'll also be putting out other stuff. If you haven't checked out our other stuff on other shows and movies, you should do that. And if there's anything you do want us to cover or get into, let us know that too. Because we are working our way through to finding other avenues here.
We're going to be single now.
We're single.
We're looking for a new.
We're open to show around, like, ooh, I'll watch this. Ooh, maybe watch this one weekend, But you know what I don't do is I don't watch 2 dramas at the same time. Like I'm not that kind of guy. You know what I mean?
Right. I think we're gonna re-review this in a way when we'll probably do like an award show for this later on, and I feel like we'll do like another review
movie
where we've been far away from it, and we'll probably think about some things differently then, I imagine, than we do right now, and it'll be fun to talk about again. But otherwise, this is sort of our last, as far as we know, Last Kingdom like
review talk.
Man, it's
unless they put out new show or something. Yeah, this is our last one,
which we hope they do. Please,
come on, guys, come on.
No, but sometimes things are just better left. And I do think that sometimes leave things how they are. Leave a good thing how it is. Let us know what you thought of this movie, please. We want to hear
Please
the
do.
thoughts. I think there's going to be some different thoughts on this one. I think I've seen some reviews. Some people really love it. We've got some people who didn't like it as much. So want to hear why you liked it. If you didn't like it, why didn't you like it? We can have discussions. That would be great.
Let us know in the comments below. Subscribe. Check us out, YouTube Podcast. Look for our reaction to the show if it's not out. This might actually come out first. Yeah, check it out whenever it comes out. People we were talking to cast and crew. Check that out. It'll be awesome. And it's like we always say.
Goodbye. And destiny
is all.